If you're looking for a real blast from the past, this week on Xbox Game Pass brings a couple of retro-style titles that are just overflowing with nostalgic vibes, plus one that goes full-on prehistoric. Throw in a Parisian platformer, a wickedly tangled narrative adventure, and an enticing preview, and you might just be buying your Xbox a card this Valentine's Day.
Far and away, one of the biggest things happening in gaming this year is the arrival of Crossfire X onto Xbox consoles. Already one of the most popular games of all time as a PC series, the new entry not only delivers on its acclaimed free-to-play multiplayer, but also brings an exhilarating solo campaign, which Xbox Game Pass members can dig into from day one on February 10th. Set in a future torn apart by mercenary warfare, you'll play as a group called Global Risk, as they go behind enemy lines to rescue their captured comrade and expose the truth about the sinister Blacklist group. All of which seems suitably epic for this blockbuster of a first-person shooter series. And with Control and Alan Wake developers Remedy at the helm, the smart money is on it being every bit as cool as it sounds.
They say that a problem is just an opportunity with thorns on, and that certainly is the case in Ark Survival Evolved. Although some of those thorns are mighty big. Drop down on an island full of prehistoric creatures, everything you come into contact with is both a threat and a potential boon. Critters can be chopped up for parts or tamed, and even, in many cases, ridden. Keep a watchful eye out for predators and other players, and you can soon craft your way up from wooden spears and thatched huts to heavy artillery and iron fortifications. Playing on the Xbox Series X and S, you'll also benefit from a bunch of visual optimizations, including a ramped up draw distance that should help you spot threats from afar. And these optimizations have also been applied to each of the expansion packs, which the Ultimate Survivor Edition comes packed with, including Scorched Earth, Aberration, Extinction, and Genesis Parts 1 and 2. So, there's hundreds of hours of fun to be had here, so long as your definition of fun involves struggling desperately to avoid being eaten by a Tyrannosaurus. And if it does, you're in luck, because Ark 2 is also currently in the works.
Arriving day one on February 14th, Infernax is a throwback to the classic Castlevania games and their many imitators, complete with a deliciously retro, heavily pixelated art style and exactly the sort of fantastical ultraviolence that had 80s parents in such a stir. You play as a noble knight who returns to his homeland only to find it positively dripping with dark magic. To help him fend it off, you'll be able to spend money and mana on all sorts of new upgrades, tailoring our shiny armored hero to your preferences. But whether you're shopping for a nice new halberd or deciding whether to help out a passerby, each decision you make in Infernax comes with serious consequences. There are 5 potential endings to be discovered depending on the choices you make along the way. So if you want this knight's tale to end in a happily ever after, you'll need sound moral judgment as well as a strong sword hand.
Another game that's giving 80s console classic is Skul the Hero Slayer. While we can't officially confirm whether Skul is the make your girlfriend mad type or the might seduce your dad type, he is most certainly a bad guy. But when the good guys come to his evil lair and wipe out every other demon in sight, this plucky little skeleton sets off to get some well-earned revenge. And you know what? Good for him. By swapping different skulls, this fast-paced roguelike allows you to imbue the bony lad with all sorts of useful powers to help you take on any pesky adventurers that cross your path. From gigantic swords to adorable little bows and arrows, you'll find all sorts of weapons to master along the way as well. So, if you're in the mood to slay a hero or two, check out Skul when it hits Xbox Game Pass on the 10th of February.
Edge of Eternity begins with 2 genres smashing rudely into each other. You start out in the tranquil, magical land of Herion, which is a picture-perfect fantasy RPG setting right up until a bunch of technologically advanced bad guys called the Ark appear out of nowhere and get sci-fi all over it. On top of the destruction caused by their spaceships and robot soldiers, they infest the world around them with a plague called corrosion, which turns plants, animals, and humans alike into zombified cyborg monsters. Bad times. To put things right, you'll need to adventure across Edge of Eternity's gorgeous world, fending off its more fearsome critters and making some pals along the way. Battles are turn-based, and anyone with Final Fantasy experience on their gaming resume will feel right at home, especially since the characters who make up your party are all similarly zany. From the sky pirate Fallon to Isurus, the tech whiz with the mysterious past. If you're looking for your next big JRPG adventure, look no further than Edge of Eternity.
Based on the hit animated series, The Last Kids on Earth and the Staff of Doom is an ideal co-op adventure to play with younger kids. After the sleepy town of Wakefield comes under attack from monsters, 4 youngsters named Jack, June, Dirk, and Quint are left to ride out the end of the world together. A bully, a jock, a nerd, and an overachiever. They're a regular breakfast bunch, if the breakfast bunch for zombies. The game takes place in an open world version of Wakefield, allowing you to switch freely between the 4 characters as you explore it. Each of them plays a little differently, and you can acquire new gear as you progress, so there's plenty here to keep you entertained on your quest to recover the fabled Staff of Doom. The end of the world has never been so fun.
Okay, if you've seen the film Searching, then you'll know just how exciting a desktop thriller like Telling Lies can be. And if you haven't, you'll just have to take our word for it. The whole of Telling Lies takes place in front of a digital computer screen as you are given the task of combing through its hard drive to try and find out the truth about a number of individuals who have been under surveillance. Each search term you pop in will return a variety of video and audio clips, although usually only with one side of the conversation recorded and very little context as to where it fits into the larger story. It's up to you to figure out how all the puzzle pieces fit together if you ever want to get a look at the big picture. With games like this and 12 Minutes, which you'll also find on Xbox Game Pass, Annapurna Pictures continues to probe at the barriers of video game storytelling, opening up all sorts of fascinating new directions to push it in.
If you want to give your game that certain je ne sais quoi, what better way to do it than to set it in 1920s Paris? Contrast is a cunning puzzle platformer in which you play as both a young girl named Didi and her imaginary friend. The girl herself can hop through the world in all 3 of its dimensions, while her invisible buddy can only interact with the shadows that objects cast. So you'll need to get your shadow puppetry skills down, manipulating light sources and moving things around to create new 2D paths along the wall. Naturally, all this light and shadow play only highlights the beauty of the Belle Epoque setting, as you clamber through jazzy nightclubs and ornate theatres on a desperate quest to reunite your estranged parents. Which seems to involve a lot more circus performers and mafiosos than you might have thought.
As the football commentators love to say, Dreamscaper really is a game of 2 halves. In the daytime is a gentle, painterly RPG in which you play as a young woman named Cassidy, who has just made it to the big city and is trying to find her place there. But while she sleeps at night, it explodes into a frantic roguelike, where she has to battle through one dungeon full of hideous monsters after another. It creates a beautiful balance and a powerful narrative about healing and trauma, as you help Cassidy move on from the traumas of her past by forming new relationships and spending time doing things like sketching and meditating. Then you get to bring all that newfound strength to bear when her personal demons take physical form as the nighttime part of the game begins. Altogether, it makes for a thrillingly therapeutic experience.
Having already bowled fans over on PC, Besiege is now ready to tear down the defenses of console players, starting with Xbox Game Pass members when a preview version arrives on February 10th. In this physics-based game, your goal is to construct a siege engine capable of laying waste to the enemy's kingdom. They'll be throwing everything at you, so only the finest slices of medieval engineering will do. Although, it turns out that might not be the highest bar ever set. From great, lumbering piles of steel and wood that trundle along the ground to Da Vinci-esque flying machines that definitely aren't up to code, Besiege allows you to unleash all manner of mechanical nonsense onto the field. The game itself is a wonderful bit of work though, perfectly adapted for console players to ensure that they always feel totally in control. At least until their latest creation takes off, or blows up.
The show must go on after the 21 edition of the acclaimed baseball series made its console debut on Xbox last year. MLB The Show 22 is now set to arrive day one on Xbox Game Pass as well on April 5th. Hot off of one of the greatest seasons in the sport's history, Shohei Ohtani will be gracing the cover this time around. Although try not to get too discouraged thinking about his 46 home runs and 26 stolen bases when you step up to the plate. We can't all be Ohtani. Both the Xbox One and the Xbox Series X and S versions of the game will be available on Xbox Game Pass, so you'll always have access to the best version, with cross-save capabilities to make sure you don't lose any progress when you make that next-gen jump. Whether you're a baseball fanatic or just a casual observer, watching a ball soar perfectly off of your bat with the power of the Xbox Series X will sure to be a home run.
So, there we have it. Everything coming your way soon as a lucky Xbox Game Pass subscriber. Which one are you the most excited to dive into? Let us know in the comments below, and for more information on all things Xbox, be sure to ring the bell and subscribe. Bye for now.